This Lenten journey of 2020 will forever be etched in our minds, won't it? Lent, a time of retreat, and we have been catapulted into near reclusion. An infinitesimally small virus has brought global economies to a halt, has closed schools, churches, and public places around the globe, has quarantined entire megacities, whole countries, closed borders, prompted widespread panic, and shuttered countless businesses. People are afraid. Some of us may find it hard to embrace the words of Jesus in what is known as the high priestly prayer of John chapter 14. He said, "My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid." But how can we possibly not be troubled during these times? What changes are going to happen in the world this week, gosh, today, that will once again change our reality? On journeys that are so bizarre and unfamiliar, peace is hard to find. When two colleagues and I visited Goma in the Democratic Republic of the Congo last July, it was right at the very apex of the Ebola outbreak in the Kivu province. We were troubled and indeed a little bit afraid. I watched how our Baptist partners in the Congo related to their neighbors, to the people around them. And I learned many important lessons during those few days that we were together. But no lesson was more important than this. The local church is the very best means to help heal a broken world. Pastors and church leaders were looked to as role models. Vital support was being channeled to people who were living in isolation. Care was provided for the families of the sick. Communities of resilience grew, and they were known for their cautious yet faithful presence in the midst of darkness. The congregants understood that they did not need to meet together in order to be the church. We learned new communal disciplines. Like most of our Christian communities, one of the disciplines we are doing here at Canadian Baptist Ministries is to very intentionally ask ourselves how to care deeply and offer peace and hope to the other in these odd times. And we're trying to push our minds beyond our traditional understanding of the other, the person across the street. We do want to care for the elderly in our churches, and we are trying. Or we're caring for the single moms in our neighborhoods. Or the people who are convalescing, who have had to rush back from their trip down south. Certainly, all of us have reason to be thankful for the remarkable health care that we have here, for the care that is being provided by emergency service providers. We are grateful for them and we care for them, and we want to show them God's peace at this time. But what about the other around the world? A South Sudanese family living in a refugee camp in northern Kenya, whose aid has been stopped because transport systems in that region have been suspended. Or our partners in Lebanon who are unable to access their own funds in local banks, even though they want so desperately to continue to implement their excellent programs. Or the pastor of a house church in Wuhan, China, who has courageously distributed day after day after day, distributed rice and soap to his community. We've also been considering how we can support and encourage our field staff during this time. Most are in self-isolation in the Philippines, Costa Rica, and Thailand, Bolivia, and Hong Kong, and other places. Their plans have been turned upside down as well. Some of them have elderly parents or children here in Canada, and they find themselves an ocean away. Others are trying to figure out how to minister without the face-to-face contact that they are so used to, especially in places where internet access is either non-existent or so incredibly unreliable. What does care for them mean? We are doing everything we possibly can to support them and to ensure them in these uncertain times. as disruptive and potentially threatening as COVID-19 may be, it will also be a means with which God can forge us into a new community with higher levels of faithfulness, of generosity, of love, and commitment. And so I leave you with these beautiful words from the Iona community in Scotland. With the beckoning and dawning of another day, can the fragile yet extraordinary words of Jesus propel us to a wider awareness, a gentler compassion, to the rediscovery of the sacred in ourselves and in our world, to that risk-taking place where we are free to be aware, to a different journey in listening companionship with these prophets of our time, the weary and the wounded, who amazingly announce the kingdom and carry in their stories the seeds of the morrow, the hidden ones, whose joy and pain, when threaded through our lives, enlarges the heart and brings new meaning to God's story. The God whose light still shines and who tenderly invites us to love our neighbors as ourselves. Thank you, and may God be with you.